Hello and welcome to Small Screen Cinema with Tabitha and Dad. We are going to resuscitate the movies from yesteryear, the TV movies that you have forgotten about or may have never even saw. These are the greatest movies that ABC, NBC, CBS, and sometimes Fox had to offer us back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. These our small screen cinema gems. And today we've got one of the greatest gems of all. We're going to do The Night Stalker from 1972, starring Darrin McGavin. Are you excited, Tabitha?
I'm so excited to talk about this.
All right. The Night Stalker. I do want to give a little background on this. Most people know The Night Stalker from the series, which was only on for one season. Before the series in 1974, there were two TV movies, one called The Night Stalker and one called The Night Strangler. Same character, Carl Koschek, played by Darren McGavin in both those movies. And then they did the series um, that was a weekly 1 hour show. The problem with the series is Darren McGavin could see, and he was really told he was going to be into the creative side of this. That's why he signed up to do it. He could see that it was dwindling down to stereotypical horror stuff, and he didn't want
Hmm.
that. He wanted it to be more intelligent. So after about 5 episodes of the series, he kind of saw the direction it was going. Okay, they're not going to be pumping money into this. The ratings weren't tremendous, but it did have a cult following. And he could see that it was basically becoming a typical monster jump scare type thing. And that's not what he wanted. So Darren McGavin is one of the reasons it only lasted one season. He just didn't want to keep doing this the way it was going. But the first movie that we're going to look at today is what started it all. And I love the way they set this up. Darren McGavin is a newspaper reporter and he narrates each episode, or in this case, the movie. And it's very effective. But let's get to some background. The screenplay is by Richard Matheson, and he did The Last Man on Earth, House of Usher, Duel, and more recently Stir of Echoes, and he also did episodes of The Twilight Zone for television and a lot of other television stuff. Now, there was a book called The Night Stalker, but it actually wasn't published yet when Richard Matheson turned it into a screenplay. Then they published it after the TV show was very popular. So it's kind of got a weird history as far as the beginnings go.
And
Um,
Matheson was a novelist too. Like a lot of what you said were based off his novels, like
yeah,
Last
yep.
Man on Earth.
And for those of you who don't know what Last Man on Earth is, it's basically it's been remade a few times, but they keep changing the title. The last time was with Will Smith.
And it was called I Am Legend, and that is the name of the book. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Mr. Matheson died in 2013 at the age of 87. It was directed by John Llewellyn Moxey, and he is known for such movies as Home for the Holidays. Sound familiar?
We've
Yeah.
run into him before.
Where have all the people gone? I don't know. Um, he also wrote for or directed episodes of Hawaii Five-O, Mannix, Kung Fu, and Charlie's Angels. Meow.
Ooh.
Um, he died in 2019 at the tender age of 94. And if I make it to 94, that means I still have 35 years left on this earth. Isn't that pretty cool? You can be 71, that'd still be alive, and you'd be, I don't have dad ever die. I don't know. Change me, I'm dirty. Stuff like
We'll
that.
be in the same home at that point.
Yeah.
Hope, hope, shut up, Dad. Stories are on.
Oh, and as I've already mentioned, Darren McGavin plays Carl Koschak, the newspaper reporter. And he was known for movies like Mike Hammer, well, the TV show Mike Hammer, the TV show Riverboat. Of course, the series, Kolchak, the Night Stalker, Airport 77, the Disney movie No Deposit, No Return, that classic Adam Sandler movie that won all the awards, Billy Madison. And but he is most known for what, Tabitha?
The Christmas Story.
A
He's the old
Christmas
man.
Story, the old man in the Christmas Story. And he plays that role perfect. I
Mm.
mean, the whole movie's great, but he is the one that just kind of gives it the extra punch.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, he's my favorite character.
that typical old school dad who is kind of not really emotionally always there for the family. He's got his own
No.
agenda and he thinks leg lamps are cool. They're tacky, yeah, just kind of like me as a dad. Um,
Well, it's like the dad's job is to bring home the money and,
yeah,
discipline if needed, but anything further with the children, well, that's mom's job, isn't it?
that was right. That was right. Except for that touching scene towards the end when he says, "Oh, I think there's another gift over there." Oh man, that gets me every time.
Do you know when I was little, I really thought Santa brought it?
He didn't.
I was not picking up on the nuances when I was like 6. I was like, wow, so Santa was mean to him, but he did bring him the gun.
There you go. Um, Darrin McGavin died in 2006 at the age of 83. Just a
Not
wonderful
that
character.
senseless age.
No, no, just a wonderful character actor. His girlfriend in this movie is played by Carol Lynley, and she is known for Return to Peyton Place, an underrated movie that I haven't seen for like 40 years, Under the Yum Yum Tree. One of the original, what do they call them? Rom-coms. Yeah, it's one of the
Oh,
original rom-coms. Um, she was
the
also in,
original rom-com was in like 1934.
okay,
So,
well, one of the
just saying.
newer original rom-coms then. Um, she was also in the Poseidon Adventure. And then her career just went upside down after that. Okay.
You.
She was in Son of the Blob. Do you know who directed Son of the Blob?
No.
Larry Hagman. So, she was also in one of Tabitha and I's favorite Western shows, The Big Valley, Heart to Heart, and Charlie's Angels. So,
Greatest show ever
she
made.
died in 2019 at the age of 77. What did you say?
Greatest show ever made.
Oh, greatest show. I thought you said the worst show. I was gonna say, come on, man.
No.
That deep acting, those those really complex storylines. You got to be kidding me. So, um, Simon Oakland plays his boss, Tony Vincenzo, and Simon Oakland also was in the series as his boss, Tony. He was in such things as The Twilight Zone, Perry Mason, The Outer Limits, and Ba Ba Black Sheep. He died in 1983 at the age of 68.
Whoa, whoa,
And
whoa, whoa, whoa. You missed like two big things. He is a psychiatrist who comes in at the end of Psycho and explains everything.
I did not realize that.
Hmm.
Huh, cool.
And he played Lieutenant Schrank in West Side Story.
I'm talking about good stuff that he was in.
Yeah, this is the kind of person you're dealing with. He thinks West Side Story is bad. So,
It's
you
not
don't have to,
bad.
you don't have to,
It's stupid.
that's even more embarrassing for him. Yeah.
I wasn't in it, so I'm not embarrassed. Okay. So, um, and finally, Claude Akins plays Sheriff Warren Butcher. He got his start in From Here to Eternity. He was also in the Kane Mutiny, Rio Bravo, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which is the last of the original Planet of the Apes series. He was also in Riverboat, probably where he met Darrin McGavin. Um, he was on the TV show Moving On, which was one of the trucker things,
Yeah.
and he was also in The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo, which was a spin-off, I think, from like, oh, One of the two guys that bootleg, good old boys, never mean no harm. Dukes of Hazzard,
Dukes of
yeah.
Hazzard?
Yeah, I think that was a spinoff of Dukes of Hazzard. Mr. Akins died in 1994 at the age of 67. The original airing of this was January 11th, 1972, when I was in first grade. Or was that kindergarten? Let me see. Yep, that would have been kindergarten on ABC. It was up against Hawaii Five-O and Cannon on CBS. And on NBC, it was up against two things I've never heard of: Suffer the Little Children and Nichols, Nichols. So,
I know Nichols. That was a short-lived James Garner show.
okay. All right. So, uh, we open and Kolchak is loading up a tape recorder and he is listening to notes that because as a reporter, he's always talking into a recorder, notes of this particular story that he had just done. And he's also transcribing that. So that's how it opens. And then it cuts to a woman on the street, and her name is Cheryl Hughes, and she's waiting for a ride from a friend on the Vegas Strip. She's 23 years old, and her friend didn't show up, so she walks 8 blocks to her house. She's walking down this side street or alley, shady area of Vegas. And those of you who have walked down the strip of Vegas know that you can look down an alley and think, I'm not going that way. So,
I do want to say I think it was really cool throughout this movie seeing Las Vegas in the early 70s, like as it was. That was really
yeah,
cool.
it was cool. Um, so as she is walking down this side street or alley, she is abducted and thrown into a dumpster area, and some sort of assault takes place, but we're not privy to what's going on because it's the beginning of the movie. So we don't exactly know what the assault is. And then the next scene, there are some sanitation workers that find her body in this dumpster area. And in our next scene, she's on an examination table and they're doing an autopsy on her. And they're talking that there's something odd with the body. And the head doctor who's doing the autopsy, he has two people with him, says he's going to call the DA and there's not going to be a word about this to anybody. What word were we talking about? We don't know because right now it's still a mystery. There's just something weird with the body. Weird. So anyway, next scene, Kolchak is driving and he's narrating while he's driving, and um, he said that he came into this a few days after the original assault, ruining his vacation. And then he goes into his newspaper office, and his boss, Tony, gives him the assignment of writing about this story. So Kolchak goes to a goes county. That's not making sense to me.
He
He
went to the
goes
morgue.
to County General Hospital. I'm sorry. I forgot to put hospital in there. He goes to County General. He goes to County General Hospital and he has a doctor who's kind of an informant who tells him stuff that he's really not supposed to. And he asks his informant, this doctor, why is the Hughes death undetermined? And the doctor says, well, you need to ask the coroner that. And then the doctor just throws in, but she did lose an abnormal amount of blood. So in the next scene, Kolchak goes to the Gold Dust Saloon to meet with Cheryl's coworker. And coworker says that she feels awful about the whole thing, that she wants to help. She even said that she didn't think that Cheryl liked men and that she was a brown belt in karate just so she could defend. That she would go on like first dates, but never really dated anybody serious, kind of like you did, except you only went on half dates and then you would find an excuse to get rid of the guy. So,
That is not true. I finished the first date and I didn't find an excuse. I just ghosted them. So
something
there.
like that. So, uh, so what Kolchak does when he narrates, he always gives a time and a date when a scene changes and he's got something to say. So he says on Thursday, May 20th at 7:02 a.m., the police arrived to like this lot by a levee, like a spillway where water would come through on those occasions when it does rain in Vegas. By the way, rainstorms when they do hit Vegas are terrible because instead of sand, which is supposed to be there, there's all this concrete now, so the water can really start rushing and it really screws up the plumbing. And I know that because your cousin Christopher's brother Randy, who is also your cousin, who you may have never even met, he was a plumber in Vegas, and he told
I've
me
met
about that.
Randy,
So
and
anyway,
I don't know about him, but Chris still lives in Vegas. Yeah, as far as
oh
I know.
really?
Hmm.
So the police are arriving to this area, and there's construction worker who points out to the sheriff that's where the body is. Kolchak arrives at this time because he's always got a police scanner and he's always listening for something. And there's a body of a woman that's laying like 20 feet away from any footprint. She's just kind of out there. And they're asking, how's this possible? There should be footprints. There's no sign of a struggle. There's just the body. And
It's very creepy. Like not the actual scene, but just the thought of that. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that is super weird. How would that happen?
yeah. So Carl is taking pictures because he's a reporter. And one of the things he does is takes a lot of pictures. And they find out that this is Bonnie Reynolds. She's a divorced cocktail waitress, and she has also lost a lot of blood. And the cop says that she lost a lot of blood, but the sheriff said that she didn't lose it there. She lost the blood somewhere else because there was no blood around.
There's no blood. Yeah,
And they found a purse, and there were signs of a struggle that were about 50 feet away from the body. But between where the struggle was and where the body was, there's nothing in between. So it's like, I guess he chucked her 50 feet. You know, it takes a manly man to do something like that, which I am not, by the way. So the next scene, Kolchak is back at the office of the newspaper, and his boss Tony is questioning why Carl thinks that the two killings are related. And uh, apparently, Carl has written this article and has included information from both murders in this article. And the result of this info is from an unnamed source. And Tony is saying, now this isn't going to do. Carl protests that he is accurate. Tony says to leave the investigation alone and just report the facts. So Tony refuses to run the story as Carl has to rewrite it with just the facts. So then Carl announces the next scene that is Friday, May 21st, 8:06 a.m., when kiddies are just getting ready for school and people are getting ready for work. And at the apartment of Carol Hannencheck, a cocktail waitress. Um, she was working as a waitress in a cocktail bar when she met me. She picked me up and turned me around. Don't you want me by the Human League?
yeah, I
Don't
know,
you want? Okay,
I
anyway.
know.
Back to seriousness. Said that she got home about 2 a.m. She poured herself some milk because strong bones, you know. And she opened the back door for an unknown reason and she died. And her roommate was sleeping just a few feet away from this, of course, behind a wall, but she didn't hear any of this go on. And it was then that uh, that's our third murder. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. So next thing, we're at a poolside and Carl's having a beer with Bernie. Bernie is an FBI agent. And Bernie tells him that he needs to let go of investigating and just be a reporter. And Carl says the similarities are too great to ignore. And he asks Bernie if the feds know anything. And Bernie says, well, I would suggest that you call the hospitals and institutions and see if there is like some guy who's mentally off that has escaped, or maybe someone who's went to a hospital who's got some mental issues, you know, kind of look there. And Bernie says that he's going to think about if, you know, there's any more information, if he can help, he'll think about helping him. So Bernie says that they are waiting for the information from the coroner. And if you want to hear the special report from the coroner, meet me at the courthouse at 6:30 tonight. And at that time, Carl is paged that he has a phone call back in the old days when a hotel would have to page over a loudspeaker with the pool. So he picks up the phone and it's his doctor friend who kind of works for him, informing him of things unofficially. And he says that the hospital's been knocked over. And apparently that's an old term for robbed. I've never heard knocked over.
You've
Uh,
never heard knocked over?
no,
Wow. Okay.
I've never said someone knocked over a bank. Someone robbed a bank.
Huh. I've heard that a lot on these old shows.
Oh,
Somebody
okay.
knocked over a liquor store, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I have heard that knocked over a liquor store. Yeah, I guess it sounded weird. It's kind of knocked over a hospital. But anyway, someone stole every container of blood in the hospital's blood bank. And so now we're at the meeting at the courthouse at 6:30. The sheriff, the district attorney, the chief of police, the coroner, and Bernie are there. And
And did you recognize the coroner?
yeah, but I have a rule of four, and I don't remember who played him.
It's Larry Little from MASH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frank Burns. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I got very excited when I saw him.
So they say that the blood was drained right after the assault happened, and on the neck there was a bite that would be about the size of a medium-sized dog. They're not saying necessarily the dog did it, but that's kind of the size of it. They don't want to come out and say it looks like a human bit her. But the coroner does come out and say that human saliva was found on the wound. So where the wound is on the neck, the bite, there was human saliva there, and thus suggesting that each woman was bitten by a man. Um, Carl asked if the perpetrator might have drank the blood, and the sheriff, who's played by Claude Akins, he scolds him,
Which
stop
this
being
is the
weird.
first time I ever realized how much Claude Akins and Simon Oakland look alike.
They
Because
do.
yeah, it took me a minute to be like, wait, what's he? Wait, no, that's a different character.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but they do look alike. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, the coroner says there have been instances where delusional men have sucked the blood, thinking that they were vampires, and the sheriff kind of shoots that down, saying we don't need any of that talk. And the coroner suggests that they look for an anemic guy with a blood disease, like a thin, palish guy that maybe has a blood disease. That's your perpetrator there. Um, Hospital security says that a dude that was fitting that kind of description was spotted hanging around the hospital around the area of the blood and the plasma. And the sheriff says, well, that's who we need to be looking for. Hmm. And the coroner kind of says, hey, but don't shit on Carl Kolchak's theory here that, maybe this is a guy who thinks he's a vampire. And Carl then fumbles with his res- recorder, and the DA tells him that you need to throw away that cassette because, we don't need people knowing what goes on in this room because people can't handle it.
And it's
Um,
somewhere in this meeting, actually, I think it's Kolchak, who's like, there have been three murders in this city. And I'm like, this is Las Vegas. That has to be not unusual. Like, maybe if this were a small town, three murders would be weird, but there's probably three in a night in Las Vegas.
yeah, but in the early 70s, Las Vegas wasn't huge like it is now. I mean, now it's probably got over 1 million people in it. It was much smaller. The only time I've been to Vegas was 84, and it still wasn't like a big city. It was like
Well,
probably three, 400,000. And now it's just huge. So
all
maybe there
right,
were
fair
less
enough.
deaths then. I don't know, but you are correct. In a city that size, Vegas with that reputation, I'm sure there's more murders than that.
Okay, well, that's good to know because also earlier, I think in the fight with his boss, the boss was saying, you're just trying to get back a big city job. And I'm like, does he not already work in a big city? But I guess if back then Vegas didn't really count as like, it's not like New York, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, fair enough.
So the DA says that all this vampire talk is going to stay in the room, and we're not going to talk about nothing about blood being drained from victims. We're going to put out that the cause of death is still undetermined. We don't need to cause a panic. It is bad for business, and panic is bad for business. It really is. Unless your business is causing panic, then it's great for business. Um, and he tells Carl that he wants to have a word with him. So Carl hangs back, and the DA tells Carl that he is a pest, and he's going to have a talk with his boss, Tony, who the DA apparently knows. And perhaps another reporter from your paper should handle this. Like, I'll tell Tony, and I'll get someone else on this, and blah, blah, blah. So Bernie, Carl's friend, the
Uh,
FBI agent.
Wait, he says the DA says stay out of other people's business. And I'm like, he's a reporter. That's literally his job, you know?
Yeah.
Just kind of a silly thing to say to him.
Yeah. So his friend Bernie tells Kolchak to watch what he says. Um, and Bernie tells Carl, I will help you, but it's got to be stealth. I can't just openly help you as an FBI agent. So in the next scene, we're at the newspaper office again, and Tony is angry because Kolchak's story um, headline is Vampire in Vegas with a question mark. And Carl saying, but I didn't say it was a vampire. So just suggesting it in the title. And so basically, he's saying there's some screwball running around Vegas thinking he is a vampire. Or that's what Carl says to Tony. And Tony says, if there's a screwball running around Vegas, his name begins with a K. And I thought that was funny. And so then Tony says, no vampire stories. Clear? Mm. So then the next scene, we're at Carl's apartment, and Carl brings his girlfriend Gail a drink, and he wakes her up. And Carl says it has got to be one man. And he's talking to Gail. The phone rings as they are starting to kiss, and apparently Melinda Dillon was not his first.
Do
But anyway,
you think she knows?
she does now if she's watched this. Ooh, yeah,
You
that's
know,
kind of
I do want to say normally I'd be like, oh, what a this is some old man's fantasy. There's no way this 50-year-old is bagging this hot young woman. But I do kind of get it. Like it's not his looks, but he has a very magnetic personality.
yeah. And in the scene where he doesn't have a shirt on, he, he's got a good body for his age.
Yeah,
He's a good looking guy. We think of him as the dad at the Christmas story. All fumbly around. I think, yeah, I can buy this.
yeah.
Um, he tells Gail that I'm forever in your debt, and then he leaves. And so, because he's going to go to another scene of the crime, but when the phone call, he is told that this time that the perpetrator was seen. So Carl drives to the scene of the crime, and it's at night, and there's an older couple. They're not terribly old, probably about my age, and they're giving the cop their statement of what they saw. And Carl arrives, and he kind of walks past them. He goes and he's taking pictures of the body, and it's Mary Brandon, a 25-year-old showgirl. And Kolchak says, looks like Bella Lugosi struck again. And one of the cops says, knock it off. That's their daughter, pointing to the older couple talking to the cop. Whoopsie daisy. So,
He doesn't say this out loud. He says this in his narration. He says a really gross thing. He says she was 125 luscious pounds.
oh,
And I'm
yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
gross.
That's what you say when you bag a deer. There's 125 luscious pounds there. I'm hungry. So anyway. Um, so Carl goes to talk to the couple, and then they just end the scene. They don't say what he said to the couple besides, "Hi, that was your daughter," and then all of a sudden the scene's gone. I guess they said, "F you, Kolchak, get out of here." I don't know.
Probably, yeah.
So then Kolchak goes to his friend Helen O'Brien, who works as a switchboard operator at the county courthouse, and he brings her candy. And he says, "Can you help me with the DMV report?" And she's like, "Yeah, you brought me candy, sure."
Yeah.
Um, and then as he's talking to her, Bernie comes in and approaches and says, "How would you like to see the killer's face?" So then they cut to a casino, and there's a newspaper in the casino, and there's a picture of the killer's sketch, the sketch artist did. And
Composite.
pardon me?
Composite.
Yeah, composite. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. So, and then we have a POV from the killer's perspective, the vampire's perspective. And a young lady is leaving the casino and she's walking in the parking lot, and the killer's kind of following her. He's in a car and he's watching her. And um, then he starts to approach her, and he's about 30 feet away from her, and she opens up her car door, and a Doberman comes out and attacks the perpetrator. But, he's like a vampire, so he just kills the dog.
I was so upset.
So I
And
want to
there's a
pause and say
really,
this.
oh, go
This
ahead.
this suspended my belief in this show because I've been to Vegas. I've seen the temperature when it was 104 degrees at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's the middle of the desert. Why is she leaving a Doberman in the car in the desert with the windows up?
Yeah,
And then,
that dog would have been dead
yeah, and
already.
then she opens it and he goes to attack the vampire. But anyway, after that,
Hold on. I want to say, there's really good shots of him. Like, you don't really see his whole face. They just kind of light his eyes, and the eye makeup's really good. It's like little dots of blood throughout the whites of his eyes. It looks really creepy.
yeah, it does. They really did a good job making this movie. And
Yeah,
there's nothing that looks hokey or stupid, you know.
yeah.
So, anyway, then the perpetrator kills her or attacks her,
Uh,
assaults her.
Attacks her,
So at the
takes her
next,
away,
huh?
takes her away. Remember, they
Takes,
can't find her.
yeah, they take her away. He takes her away. So the next scene, they're back at the newspaper office. Tony says that the update of the story is still unacceptable. And they argue because Carl says this is a man who thinks he is a vampire. And Tony says we're supposed to report the news, or Carl says we're supposed to report the news, not suppress it. And basically, Tony says if people think that there's a vampire, they're going to come unglued. There's going to be a panic. So we're not going to print that. How he retains this job, I don't know, because throughout the series, Tony was squashing us stories. I'm thinking, what are you turning in to get paid? Advertisement? I don't know. But anyway, so in the next scene, it is narrated by Kolchak that it is Tuesday, May 25th at 7:30 p.m. And then Helen tells him that the DMV came up with 16 possibilities, and all but one have been eliminated. So, for this particular car, a name and address was provided, but they were phony. So, but Helen had the name of the car lot where the car was purchased. So at least Kolchak could show up there. So the next scene, the sheriff is at the car lot talking to the salesman, and then Carl shows up. The sheriff's not happy to see Carl because he's a nuisance. And the salesman says that the sketch in the newspaper was accurate, but I swear to God, he had a mustache. So he had a mustache. So um, he said that the car was I don't know, like $1,200, and the guy said it was $300 too much, but the guy was creeping him out and just wanting him off the lot, so he just gave him the car for what he asked for. So the next thing, we're back at Carl's apartment, and Gail says if he keeps being a pest like this, he is going to get fired again. And Carl tells Gail that she should quit her job because all these girls that have killed all five were night workers. And what's really funny when Gail's talking about getting fired again, she goes through a litany of all these towns he's been fired from, some of them multiple times. I thought it was kind
Multiple
of funny.
times,
Yeah.
yeah. Like New York, Chicago, Boston.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
So,
right.
so Gail asks Carl what he knows about vampires. And so she brings him a book on vampires. Apparently, Gail's into vampires. I don't know.
I do like that she's the one who's really gets him started on. She's like, no, you need to actually take this seriously and consider that maybe it is a real vampire. Because he's like, oh, don't be silly,
Yeah.
basically, you know?
Yeah, she says, in case he is a real vampire, you really need to read this book. So they're looking through
Yeah.
it a bit, and then Carl reads out loud how to destroy a vampire. Of course, we all know, they back off from a crucifix. They don't like sunlight, and you have to kill them by driving a stake into their heart or putting them in a wood chipper. I think I've talked about this on this before, haven't I? That you can kill a
Yes.
vampire by putting it in a wood chipper, but they never bring that up. But anyway, next scene, uh, the vampire, the perpetrator, is going into the hospital. I guess he wants more blood, and a nurse catches him stealing blood. So she goes and gets an orderly who tries to stop the
Who immediately
vampire.
starts throwing hands. And I'm like,
Yeah,
good for you, sir.
yeah, but the vampire just kicks his ass.
Yeah.
And the vampire takes the blood, and then all these other orderlies and male people are coming to stop him, and he's just beating the crap out of all of them. Throws one of them out of like a 4-story window. I'm like, yeah, you go, vampire. But
It
anyway,
it just
um,
was kind of funny. I'm like, oh, you're real bad at like being stealth like. He had to fight off every orderly in this hospital to get out of there.
so Carl drives into the scene along with the cops, and the vampire comes out the door, still throwing out all these hospital personnel, just treating them like rag dolls. And then he throws a few cops around just for some fun too. Carl gets photos of it, and the vampire escapes. They shot at him and everything, and the vampire escapes, no problem. So the next morning, Carl's story of what happened at the hospital hits the newsstand before any TV or any other media has a story. So Carl's pretty happy, hey, my story hit first, blah, blah, blah. So we're at the courthouse and they're having a briefing, and Bernie starts the briefing because they've done a background check on this guy. They said that he was born in 1899. Now remember, this is 1972, so he's born in 1899. Then the sheriff protests. And he's like, let me finish, let me finish. So he was from Europe. He moved to England. While in England, he became a doctor of hematology, which is blood. And then he went to Canada, like somewhere around World War I or so. And he kept up this facade of being a doctor of hematology. And then he moved to Vegas. And they said that everywhere, Bernie says, everywhere he has been, there's been lots of killings with a massive amount of blood loss. And Carl says that happened at the hospital yesterday. He was looking for blood and blah, blah, blah. And so Carl says a 70-year-old man was shot at point blank and still outran a police car. There was no blood, just clear liquid. There was no blood. The only way you will get him is to treat him like a real vampire. And the DA says this cannot be talked about like this because there will be a panic. So Carl and the DA argue that this will be handled like he is an ordinary maniac. And Carl says, remember, the next time you blow it, I have the answers. And they say that there's going to be increased security around town. which vampires always, it scares the hell out of them. They usually leave when they hear that. So the next scene, we're on a casino floor, and Carl tells his other informant, Mickey, to take this sketch that was in the paper, take it to all the real estate agents that he can find, and find out if any house has been bought or rented from this guy.
That is Elisha Cook Jr., who's a great character actor. So I was excited to see him too.
What else has he been in?
Well, I mostly know him from the original House on Haunted Hill with Vincent Price. He's,
Yeah,
yeah. I know I've seen him in a bunch of other stuff, but that's the main thing. So I was like, hey, it's Bridget.
cool. So in the next scene, we're back on a casino floor. Oh, yeah, I'm talking about that. Okay. Mickey, find out who bought or rented any of these houses. So then he goes and he sits at a table with Gail, Kolchak does, and he says, I have a feeling the cops won't get him.
And she's knitting, by the way, in a casino, which I thought was cute.
Yeah, this young blonde who looks like someone who works in a casino, is just knitting, knitting. So, um, and Carl says that this whole thing may be out of his league. He's never seen anything like this. The next scene, Carl is driving, and his scanner says that the vampire was spotted at a particular address. So Carl goes to the scene, and the cops are there, and they kind of box in the vampire's car. And he gets out and smacks the cops around as he escapes. And Carl's just taking pictures of everything.
I
And
love the wide shots. There's just this huge brawl, and he's standing back taking
yeah,
pictures. I'm like, respect.
yeah. So at one point, the cops throw him into a pool to try to subdue him, and that doesn't work. And they've shot him numerous times, but he just escapes because we found out there's only two ways to kill a vampire. And what are those, Tabitha?
Stake through the heart
And
and a wood chipper.
a wood chipper. Very good. Very good.
Which I
Yay.
want to say, this vampire is lame. First of all, he has to drive around in a car. He can't turn into a bat. He can't fly. I'm like, he gets caught every night. It's just that he happens to be way stronger than everybody else because he's a vampire. And I'm like, you suck.
Not all vampires are good. He's trying his damnedest. Would you leave him alone? Jeez. My gosh. So,
Just embarrassing for him, is all I'm saying.
uh, he tried.
Like,
At least he tried.
even the vampire that Starsky and Hutch fought didn't have to drive away in a car. Just
Uh,
saying.
remember the X-Files episode where all the vampires are in the town and
Oh, that's the best episode.
yeah,
Yes.
it's awesome. It's awesome. I love it. And
It's so funny.
the kid who plays Smalls in oh what's that
Sandlot.
movie? Sandlot, yeah.
Yeah.
He plays the vampire. It's pretty cool. So anyway, Kolchak next say that Friday, May 27th at 3:17 a.m., despite all the added security from police, the vampire remains at large. So we are back at the courthouse. The DA, Bernie, and the sheriff are talking, and Carl is in this meeting. And the DA questions Carl about the report. And the DA is starting to come around to Carl's belief that maybe this is, if not a vampire, someone playing a vampire.
Mm.
So Carl kind of negotiates with him and says, in exchange for my help, I want exclusive rights to the story. So Carl says, each man on the field, each cop is going to need a cross, a stake, and a wooden mallet. And the sheriff says that that is premeditated murder. And Carl says that's the only thing that's going to work. You have to track him down to his place, wait till dawn, and get him then. You're not going to catch him at night. I mean, that's when he's at his strongest, and so on and so forth. So knock that shit off. So the guys, they go to talk without Carl, and they approach Carl. They said, "Okay, you have a deal, but this has will be done by police procedure. That he will be taken alive, and he will have a trial." And they tell Carl, if you are wrong, you have to leave town within 12 hours. Carl says, I'm going to agree this because I know I'm right. I'm Carl freaking Kolchak. So, uh, Carl is leaving the courthouse and he gets in his car. He's excited about the deal. And then as he's in his car, he notices that there's someone in his backseat and he gets out, but it's Mickey. And Mickey says,
Always check your back seat
yeah.
before you get in.
So Mickey says, hey, man, I mean, I was waiting for you. I just went in your backseat and I fell asleep. Sorry about that.
I love that. I fell asleep.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a vampire loose. I'm going to sleep in the back of a car. But anyway, um, he tells Carl that I have found the house that this guy is living in. So Carl goes to the house. It is still dark, and he goes inside an open window and he opens a refrigerator and he finds all this blood from the hospitals and he's taking some picture. He's snooping around, and in one drawer he finds a fake mustache with a little bit of stage makeup. And so
The
the
vampire needs disguises.
yes, that is correct. So then Carl walks upstairs, and as he's walking upstairs, he breaks a little bit of glass and makes a noise. And that's kind of creepy. I'm like, oh my gosh, but nothing comes out. Goes into a
Yeah,
room.
this whole sequence really reminded me of Salem's Lot.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
this vampire lives in this big old creepy house. And yeah, I really like this scene.
yeah. And so he finds a coffin in an upstairs room and he opens it, and in the coffin there's no vampire, but there is dirt. Because a lot of people think that vampires sleep in these nice pristine coffins. No, according to Bram Stoker, their coffins are full of dirt. Okay. So I was glad that they were faithful to what a vampire is really sleeping in.
Well, because sometimes the lore says they have to sleep in the dirt of their ancestral home. Do you remember that What We Do in the Shadows where they go to Atlantic City, but then the maid vacuums all their dirt, so they can't sleep, and Guillermo has to fly all over the world to get dirt from.
Oh, awesome show. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Uh, my favorite thing is when they were going to decorate and they went to the party store and we need creepy paper, creepy paper. I loved it. Anyway, so he goes into another room and he finds that last woman, the one who sent out the Doberman. He finds her and she's bound to a bed and she's got tape over her mouth. And she is whimpering and she's got an obvious wound on her neck. And um, then the vampire drives home because, he doesn't fly because he's just not that good of a vampire. Tabitha's already established.
Which also begs the question: he steals blood from the hospitals. Then why does he have to murder people in the streets? And if he doesn't need to do either of those things, or if he needs to do either of those things, why did he kidnap this woman and kept her alive just to keep feeding off of her? How hungry is he?
I don't know.
He's just being kind of gluttonous at this point.
He- You just hit the nail on the head, though, a little bit ago. He's a bad vampire. He doesn't really understand what he's doing. So,
And he actually, what's interesting is he never has a line. He never
no,
speaks at
doesn't.
all. He's very much like just a monster, you know?
Yep. So the vampire's pulling in, and Carl is starting to untie the woman as he hears the vampire coming in. And so he puts the tape back over her mouth, but it's not sticky anymore because tape kind of loses its adhesiveness after a while of being on a sweaty face. Um, so he tells her to hold still, and then he hides in a closet, and the vampire enters the room, and he hangs a bag of blood on one of those poles you see in a hospital that they hang IVs on,
Yeah,
and he leaves the room. But I don't know why he's hanging the bag of blood. Is he draining blood into her?
exactly. Nothing he does makes sense. Bad
Because
vampire.
I've given blood and they always have the bag below your arm.
Yeah.
because it's flowing down. I don't know. But anyway, he didn't see that the gag had come off of her mouth, which is good. So Carl comes out of the closet and he's going to, I guess, help the woman. And then he notices that the doorknob starting to turn. So he hides back in the closet. The vampire opens the closet door with fangs ablazing, you know, and Carl holds up a cross and the vampire is backing away and he backs out of the room because Carl's got the cross on him and he's backing the vampire away. And Carl descends the stairs backwards while keeping the vampire at bay with the cross. And Carl then stumbles down the stairs, and that's when the vampire decides to pounce on him because he's dropped the cross. So, um, as the vampire's on Carl trying to bite his neck, Bernie comes in, and then the vampire gets off of Carl and quickly bops away Bernie. And while he does that, Carl grabs Bernie's gun that had dropped and he fires at the vampire. But this
Even though he
vampire's been
knows that's not
shot.
gonna work.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the vampire fights off Carl and Bernie. They're trying to both get him and he fights them both off. And then he's about to pounce on Carl again. And Carl pulls the curtains down, exposing the rising sun.
Yeah, I was like, oh, thank God that took all night, I guess.
Yeah. And so while Bernie is keeping the vampire at bay with the cross, Carl stakes him in the heart. And then the sheriff and a bunch of cops come in as this is happening. Should have put him in a wood chipper, but anyway. So
Those are
next
harder to
scene,
carry around with you than a stake and a mallet.
uh, the next scene, we're back in Carl's apartment, and Carl is writing the final story, and he's asking Gail to marry him. They're going to move to New York because he's going to get a big time job, and they've got to print this because that's the bargain. So he goes into the office, and Tony tells Carl that he will publish a story. And Tony tells him the DA wants to see him. And then he tells Carl, "You're one hell of a reporter." I thought,
Gets a
darn
little
right he is.
respect from his boss, yeah.
You're darn tootin', as William H. Macy says in Fargo. So,
And as a reward, he gives him a sexy leg lamp.
so then we're at the DA's office. The DA, the sheriff, the police chief, and Bernie are there. The sheriff says Carl is under arrest for murder and you killed without questioning in a trial. Then the DA reads a bogus story of the police taking care of it with proper police procedure. And he tells Carl, this is a story that's going to be printed, not your story. And
And I feel like he should have known better than to trust
yeah.
the police, but
So they have Carl sign a non disclosure agreement and tell him to leave town. And he starts to get on the phone to call, and he says that he wants to call Gail. And they said, "Oh, that's okay. We ran her out of town." And Bernie tells him, "Carl, sorry, there's nothing I can do about it." So Carl has to leave town.
and they
And
packed his bags for him, by the way.
well, that was nice, though. I thought that was nice. So anyway, Carl leaves town, and he says that he could not find Gail. Uh, the
Yeah, and
book
it's the 1970s, not the 1870s. And you're a reporter. You could not find her? That just seemed weird to me.
but it makes a better story.
I
Um,
guess.
And of course, this through narration, he's saying the book is finished, but you won't find the facts because it has been scrubbed. And the vampire and all of his victims were cremated because we all know the vampires, the ones if they can all come back to life. So yeah, so and that was basically the way the movie ended. Um, Tabitha, do you think that I saw this as a kindergartner? Did I see a repeat, or did I just see this for the first time?
Well, I think you saw it as a repeat, but I want to believe that you saw it originally.
I did not see it originally. I
Darn.
saw this probably about 15 years ago for the first time. I
Mm,
had seen the series, and it was when we first moved into this house. That's when I actually found it on one of the platforms, but I could not find it on a platform this time besides YouTube. I can find the
mm.
Night Strangler on different platforms, but I couldn't find the Night Stalker. But anyway, yeah, so I saw a repeat of it. So this is the second time that I have seen this. Would you give it a classic or a trash it?
Oh, this is a classic.
This is a classic. This is a great movie.
Hmm.
And at the time, it was the highest rated TV movie ever. There was a lot of hype behind it, and that's why they did the second one and did the series. But the series, after the first few episodes, just didn't live up to what uh, Darrin McGavin thought it should be. So he kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Um, I do want to tell a funny little story about this. When the series was on, when I was a kid, I would watch the series because it came on when I was like second grade. And so I would watch it by then, me and my sisters would watch the series. I have a cousin who's a year younger than me. And my uncle was telling the story that they were all watching the Night Stalker and they were all drinking milkshakes. And in one scene, the monster popped out, and my cousin Brian, just his reaction of being scared, he went, and threw the milkshake in his face. So anyway, that was kind of a little bit of a funny story, but yeah, I really like this. You wouldn't be disappointed to watch it. You will if you like horror, if you like mystery and suspense, and if you love the character Darren McGavin plays on A Christmas Story, it's much like that character, kind of disheveled. Um, but he does a fantastic job. It's well acted all the way around. It is just a really good movie that I highly suggest you watch.
Yeah.
Next,
This is actually the first time I saw it too.
oh, really?
Yeah, I had seen the show as well, but I'd never gotten around to seeing either of the movies. So yeah,
Did you think this was better than the show?
I haven't watched the show in a long time, so it's hard to say. I'm gonna say probably though.
Yeah. I I watched the entire series because it was must-see TV when we were kids. So I watched every series, but only a few stand out that I can remember. So I think that the movie may be better than all the episodes. There are some episodes that are really good though, that
Hmm.
I really enjoyed that have stuck with me. Like the guy who cuts out people's hearts with a dull knife. That really, that's creepy. Um, but yeah, I think this is a little bit better than the show. So next week we will not be doing a show because Tabitha and I will be out of town watching my daughter, Tabitha's sister, graduate from college. Yay.
Yay!
So we'll be back in 2 weeks. What are you going to watch in 2 weeks, Tabitha?
I have not decided.
Ooh, I haven't seen that one. So,
I will
so,
let you know.
so when Tabitha decides, we will film this in 2 weeks and you'll be as surprised as I am. Yeah, please let me know before the show so I can watch it.
No, you're just gonna have to watch all of them
Every TV movie ever. All right.
ever made. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.